Hello everyone, I'm Cchavi Vasisht. I am faculty of Sociology at NICE IS and an educator at Unacademy platform. This is the discussion that I have kept for framework for previous year questions. Earlier two classes have been taken with respect to how to write your answer. Again, framework for previous year question and answer writing skills that was taken earlier. And then we had discussed few frameworks in the second part of it. Today we have the third part of the series, and this basically is going to focus on first telling you what are the 6 basic rules. This is something I have told you before also, but often students miss on these guidelines, and therefore it is important to reiterate again and again that what are the 6 basic rules for you to write the answer, to understand the question, and how to frame a question for sociology optional specifically. I have just now received a request from one of the students that I should take a class on directive words, which is something I will take as part 4 of the series then. So you will have another part added to it. These series are mostly about how to have a framework and how to write your answers. Basically identifying the keywords, identifying the directive words, identifying the basic rules that you have to keep in mind while you're writing your answer, so that you write better answers and you can score 300 plus, right? Again, I have a lecture already for you all where I've talked about how you can score 300 plus in sociology, as I have already scored that much. And with a determined hard work and, within the framework of the syllabus and previous year questions, this is something which is achievable. If you know what is the content, if you know how to write an answer, this is something which is achievable. It is not that it is a very difficult task. That is what you must have heard from all the toppers also, right? Everyone has their own journey. Everyone follows a particular path. Something works for somebody, something doesn't work for somebody, right? So just have a basic framework, have a basic idea of it, and keep writing answers. And again, this is, I keep telling in the earlier classes also, never write 2 or 3 answers. This is something, despite me telling it this in every class, students ask, ma'am, can we start writing 2, 3 answers each day? No. Take 3 hours and write. Because your initial 1 hour, when you write the first 6 questions or first 7 questions, your productivity is very high. It is the last 1 hour that will determine your marks, right? That will determine the content of your answers. So that is where the game would play. So always choose a day, write for 3 hours and see your productivity and get it evaluated from your teachers. That is the best way to practice answer writing, right? So first, talking about this lecture, it has 6 basic rules that we are going to discuss for writing answers. Then, what is the difference between sociology answer writing and GS answer writing? I have earlier also told you that how sociology should be understood. There I had discussed few things that you need to add to your answers to make it sociological. The same thing and a few more additions to it we will discuss today, how GS answer writing is going to be different from sociology answer writing. And then we will discuss the framework for previous year questions. First, we will look at the topic of sociology and other sciences. Here we have 2 frameworks that we will discuss, how sociology is different from other sciences, and statement-based questions, which is often asked in the examination, and often you must have seen that you're not able to produce the direct answer for that statement. Statement-based questions are very tricky. You need to hit the right point, and it has a very high chances of misunderstanding the question. And trust me, all your statements, and this is something I have learned over the period of years, all your statements for UPSC comes from your NCERT. So you don't have to hunt, you don't have to read all the books that are available for sociology optional. If you keep in mind that you read your NCERT, and NCERT I mean class 11th, 12th, both, there are total 4 NCERTs. If you read them, I can guarantee you, you can write any framework, any statement-based question, right? So mark my words, statement-based questions can be completely solved from your NCERT, because NCERT is going to give you a clarity, a conceptual clarity of things, and then it would become easier. For example, in 2018 itself, there was a question on C.W. Mill's statement, And that is from the first page of class 11th NCRT itself, sociological imagination, how your history is related to your biography, and that is how sociology emerges. So this is something which is mentioned in the first chapter of class 11th NCRT. So read your NCRTs, consider it as a Bible, consider it as a very important source for your preparation, right? Then we will discuss Emile Durkheim's study of society. Here I'm not going to teach you Emile Durkheim's theory of society, so you don't have to be bored of it. This is something I'm assuming that maximum of you must be knowing it, but I will answer or tell you the answer about its applicability. When sometimes there's a question about how you can apply, how you can check the functionality of a particular theory, you have to evaluate it from a particular standpoint. So that is what we are going to discuss, how Emile Durkheim's theory of society can be applicable in the Indian context or not, right? Whether it is functional, whether it is useful for the Indian context or not. And last one, juvenile delinquency. I'm trying my best to have every every framework class to have one GS based question, so that you don't write a GS based question in terms of how you write in GS with the case studies, and in terms of when we talk of juvenile delinquency, we often tend to write about the cases which are prevalent in India or cases which are prevalent in other countries, whether education works for them, whether keeping them in separate homes works for them or not. We try to discuss those points and we look into the legal cases. But in sociology, what are you going to look at it, right? This is something we will discuss in today's lecture. So let us start with our lecture. The 6 basic rules. Again, when I tell you that your NCRT is your Bible, right? NCRT is something that is going to tell you what are the sociological terms, what are the sociological concepts, and what are the sociological perspectives. You have to keep in mind when you are writing an answer, and this is the main difference between GS and sociology answer, is that in GS, there is a particular terminology that you follow for each subject, right? If you don't, then you are highly mistaken. You need to follow particular terminology for each subject. For example, if you're writing an answer in paper 2, GS paper 2, you will often use things like, articles, support from any Supreme Court judgment. This is what you're going to use. That is because that is the main idea or content of the subject. If you're writing for economics, you would talk in numbers, inflation, deflation, you would talk about currency, you would talk about value, you would talk about quantity, quality. Then you're talking about security. You would talk about defense, military, you would have specific terms for it. You cannot write a layman answer. If you're writing about defense, you are writing about innovation, you're writing about technology. You must know how much percentage of GDP is given for research and development. So these all are things that I often tell students, and in my special class earlier also, I have told you that maintain a copy for your GS, and this is just an idea to tell you that how you need to have a copy for your GS. Sociology, I will tell you separately. For GS, maintain this kind of a copy which has divisions, and you can have each section or each topic written on the top. So whenever you read the newspaper, whenever you find something interesting, you can just pick up that page and write the fact, write the study, write the GDP, write anything, any report that has come in particular context for that thing. For example, today I was about to take your class on society. I was going to tell you what is the theory of Durkheim's society and what is its applicability. So if you see, I haven't written here anything else, but in suicide topic, I've just written how much it has increased. And this is according to the National Health Profile 2018. Suicide has increased by 23%. Now, whenever I'm writing a GS-based answer, I would just learn this fact. I know section 309 of IPC has criminalized the attempt to suicide. So I have just written these 2 points. Similarly, at that point when I was preparing this copy, death penalty was a very important issue, or slavery was a very important issue, and it had, directly come in the prelims, that what is the ILO conventions 138 and 182 that India had ratified. So there was a very high probability that that question would come in your mains as well. So I took out the information on global slavery index. Then what are the cases of slavery in India? What are the forms? And then what is the central sector scheme for it? For example, we have a central sector scheme for rehabilitation of bonded labor. So maintain such a copy, and each topic has its separate terminology. It cannot have an overlapping terminology. Every subject, every thing has its own terms, concepts, perceptions, perceptives, and their vocabulary. For example, you all know that we have different, sectors. For example, we have women, we have children, we have old age, we have minorities, we have disabled. ये एक स्टैंडर्ड क्वेश्चन है जो कहीं पे भी आ सकता है, कैसे भी आ सकता है. What you do? For example, for tribals, I have this page. So whenever there's a question on tribals, I will pick up the information or facts or figures from here and I will write the answer. If you have this copy prepared, I can assure you there's nothing that you can stop you from writing a GS-based answer, because you now have the content. You just have to mold it as per the demand of the question. अब ऐसा भी नहीं है कि बस यहीं से copy paste कर देना. Often I find problem in students' copy is that they directly copy their notes. That is also not something that you need to do. You don't have to copy your notes directly. You have to use this content to write on notes making, which is there on the YouTube. Start making notes so that you don't have to hunt for content. Once you have the content with you, you can mold it according to the demand of the question. And where will you develop your content? First of all, any student who wants to prepare for sociology, you need to read your NCRTs. Then IGNOU. Come what may, IGNOU should be something that should be your reference book. Every topic in your sociology syllabus is there in IGNOU. And within IGNOU, you will find often that in the last end of the chapter, there are certain terms which are discussed. Those are the terms or concepts that you need to use in your sociology answer. You cannot say that family size has, now the families are of larger size. You need to have the clarity between nuclear and joint families, right? Those are the terms that you use in sociology. You don't say large size, small size. You talk about nuclear or joint. So that is how very minute differences, very somebody who knows the subject would understand that how terms are very important. You cannot always say, okay, father's side and mother's side. You must know the term consanguinity, affinity to write an answer based on kinship. So these are the terms that I'm talking about. You should know what is a social conflict. You should know what is a social role. You should know the difference between status and role. So all these are basic terms which are there in your NCRT and IGNOU. Before you start your Harlem-Bose, before you start your T.B. Baltimore, which often teachers suggest you, T.B. Baltimore, Harlem-Bose, Anthony Giddens, these are books of a higher end. Once you're clear with the terms, once you're clear with the concepts, once you're clear with the perspectives, you will be able to use that book. But if you have not read this basic books, that is NCRT and IGNOU, you will not be able to use your Harlem-Bose, Anthony Giddens, and T.B. Baltimore. I hope I'm clear here. Second, understand the broader context. Once you've understood the broader context, अब आपको पहले context ही नहीं पता. आपको पता ही नहीं कि sociology based, अगर for example if I'm going to teach you society today, अगर आपको पता ही नहीं कि society का आंसर लिखना कैसे है, आपको content कैसे use करना है, तो आप current affairs से उसको कभी नहीं link कर पाओगे. Today I'm going to tell you how the functionality of Durkheims Theory can be checked by using the current affairs which are there in your GS paper 1. Right, so that is how you're going to interlink your current affairs. Choose your options carefully. This is the biggest challenge. This is something I have told students again and again. Follow the same pattern. अगर आप घर पे आंसर राइटिंग प्रैक्टिस करते हो, आपने शुरू करा है क्वेश्चन नंबर 1 से, और आप हमेशा वहीं से ही शुरू करते हो, तो मेंस में भी वैसे ही करना. अब मेंस में जाके पैटर्न मत बदल देना, नहीं मैं पहले वो करूँगा या करूँगी जो मुझे ज़्यादा अच्छे से आता है. And then I'll continue with the ones which I don't know much. If you want to follow that pattern, then practice in the same pattern. But if you want to follow the pattern where you start with question number 1, please stick to that. Don't change your strategy in the mains examination. Whatever you practice, you implement that. Follow the same pattern, start with your strength. That is completely your choice. Somebody like me, who always prefer to start with their strength so that you can write a better answer, but many students often fail here to do that. For example, they know a question very well and it's a 20 marker. They will spend 30 minutes on it. This is, I'm not joking, I have seen students do that. And this is the blunder that you commit. The question you know, come what may, आपको उसमें 10 से 12 से ज़्यादा तो कभी नहीं मिलेगा. This is a maximum. But आपने उसमें 30 minutes लगा दिए. Yeah, as it is time for writing the rest of the answer, gets crushed and you will be hyper. And last May, you won't be able to write the answer. That's why I'm saying last 1 hour May is going to decide how much you're going to score. Not the first 1 hour. Your last 1 hour is going to decide. Right? Simple language. You know, often students say, feel that if we use jargons, if we use difficult language, if we use more of a university-based language, that is how you're going to score the marks. This examination is for people who have just graduated. That is the minimum qualification, though they expect that you can have more higher studies. And it is always advisable because that develops your mind and everything. That develops you as a personality. I always suggest that go for higher studies. But that does not mean that you use the academic university-based language in your answers. Your answer writing should be very simple. That's why I tell you the reference book should be IGNOU and NCERT. Because they give you the simplest language possible. Your argument should have a flow rather than using difficult words, rather than using academic-based writing. That's why often, it is said also that engineers are able to score more in sociology optional rather than the ones who have done their masters and MPhil. Because when you are doing your masters and MPhil, you develop academic writing. But when you are writing UPSC answers, you don't have to write in that way. So please be careful about how you write your answers. Choose simple language. In your notes itself, don't use the jargon phrases. Don't use the hi-fi language. Use simple IGNOU or NCERT language and try to bring a flow to your answers. What you often do is you write 1, 2, 3, 4. या आप बस randomly इसने ये कहा है, इसने ये कहा है, इसने ये कहा है, इसने ये कहा है. Flow नहीं है आंसर में. Rather start other way around. That this is the concept, this is the argument said by so and so. Brackets में just put the name of the person. But don't start with the, okay, according to this, according to this, according to this. वो flow ही टूट जाता है. Answer में वो flow ही develop नहीं होता. So start with the argument that you want to give and then give the thinker's name. Your arguments should be logically correlating to one another. ऐसे नहीं randomly कहीं से कुछ pick up कर दिया. This is something very important for your GS also. We often tend to, write whatever we know. We just vomit out the content. But that is not how you do answer writing. That's why your development of skills is very important for a good answer. And that is how you're going to score in mains. That is the key area that is going to decide how you're going to enter the next stage, right? Interview tak pahunchna aapka kaam hai. Uske baad, leave it to God, right? Work on your writing. It should be legible and clear. I'm not saying to have a very beautiful, start वो जो बचपन में नहीं करते थे कर्सरी राइटिंग के लिए कॉपीज लेते थे. I'm not asking you to do that. But itna that you have proper spacing between words and spacing between your lines. एक के ऊपर एक मत चिपकाओ. Clearly लिखो. अगर thinker का नाम नहीं आता, often this is something students do. Thinker का नाम नहीं आता ना, उसको बहुत ही गंदे से लिख देंगे कि examiner को समझ ही ना आए. You're trying to trick the examiner. Examiner is much more experienced, and you try to trick with such a foolish thing. So don't do that. If you don't know the thinker's name, don't use the thinker's name. First of all, learn the spellings. Ali Hochschild, Durkheim, Ghure. I have seen people do mistakes in Durkheim and Ghure spellings also. John Drace. These are things you should need to learn on the first place, and don't go for anybody else's notes. Google कर लो, 1 मिनट भी नहीं लगता. क्या करते हैं, टॉपर्स के आंसर्स में देख लेते हैं किसी का वर्ड यूज किया हुआ, उसको डायरेक्टली आप कॉपी पेस्ट कर देते हो. This is a real time example. I'm not joking on this. And when I told the student to Google it, he found a different spelling. It hardly takes a minute. You use Google so often. You use Google for almost everything possible. So just Google the thinker's name. थोड़ा सा आपको एक्स्ट्रा नॉलेज ही मिल जाएगा. कभी भी आपको कुछ नया चीज़ देखना है, नया चीज़ पढ़ना है, आपको थोड़ा एक्स्ट्रा नॉलेज ही मिलेगा. So Google the spellings, learn the spellings and avoid grammatical errors. Very, very, very important. It is a big, big, big no to make grammatical mistakes. Again, I'm not expecting you to be a master's in English, to be a master's in anything, but you should not make grammatical errors, right? Last, time management. This is something I've already told you earlier, that when you start with your strength, sometimes you can give 30 minutes to one question. Big no. 20 marker, 12 to 30 minutes. If you have not finished, maximum take 1 more minute, finish the answer, go to the next one. जहाँ पे आप 10 to 11 करने में अपनी मेहनत लगाओगे या 10 to 12 करने में मेहनत लगाओगे, आप इससे अच्छा एक नया क्वेश्चन करके उसमें आराम से 4 to 6 मार्क्स ला सकते हो. 10 मार्कर और अगर 20 मार्कर भी कर रहे हो जो नहीं आता है, फिर भी आप उतना तक पहुंच सकते हो. So be very careful about your time. And 10 marker is 6 to 7 minutes. Here you will know that how you're going to write the answer. Right? So these are your 6 basic principles. Now, sociology versus GS answer writing, I've already discussed with you. Terms are very important. Vocabulary is very important. Every subject has its own vocabulary. While writing sociology answers, you have to keep in mind these two things. Either you talk about the social structures, social processes, social institutions, social groups. I have already taken a lecture on this, that what is a social structure, what is a social process, what is a social institution, what is a social group. But if you haven't seen that lecture, I would request you go back and see it. And for more details, read your NCERT. Any question you need to analyze, whether it's a tribal question, whether it is Manarega question, either you choose social groups and evaluate it, either you use social processes and evaluate it, either you choose social structures and evaluate, either you choose social institutions and evaluate, right? Then there are themes, sociological themes. Functionalist, you all are aware of. Conflict, you all are aware of. Interactive, you all are aware of. But you don't use them in your answers. What do you do? According to Parsons, according to Karl Marx, according to C.W. Mills, according to this, develop the argument. The functional school of thought, then in brackets you can write the thinker's name. Conflict school of thought, then you can write it in bracket, right? So this was the main difference, one in terms of the terms and terminology and how you're going to evaluate a sociology-based answer. Now let us discuss the framework. Sociology and other sciences. Often we get question. It is a minimum 2 questions where you get it from research and methodology and sociology and other sciences. Every year you get a question on it. Now, whenever you have to write an answer on sociology and other sciences, what mistake students do is that they'll just start, bombarding the content and not understand how you have to build a flow to your answer. Again, start with the basic definition. Economics is the study of production and distribution of goods and services in society, while sociology studies the all aspects of society. Then, tell the relationship. In carrying out economic activities, man interacts with other social being groups and societies, and therefore economic activity is considered as a social activity. For example is very important. Once keep in mind, if you're writing examples, not every time use a hypothetical example. अगर किसी के बारे में आपके पास कंटेंट है, आपके पास एक रियल टाइम एग्जाम्पल है, use that. For example, earning or acquiring wealth is approved by society and the consumption patterns shaped by the social and cultural values. Whatever you earn, whatever you perform in your occupation, that is approved by society. And then your social and cultural values are going to determine your consumption patterns. कि पैसा कहाँ खर्च करना है, right? So both these things are related to one another. Still, the subject matter of economics is different from sociology. Then you start with the next flow. कैसे दोनों different है? पहले तो आपने एक relationship establish किया, define किया दोनों को, एक relationship establish किया. Now you will talk about how the subject matter is different for both. If the most easiest way is make a table. But if you don't have time, you cannot make a table, write in 1, 2, 3, 4. But have a structure. सब कुछ पैराग्राफ में नहीं लिख सकते, सब कुछ पॉइंट्स में नहीं लिख सकते. Paragraph point, or paragraph table, paragraph table. Make it like that. Sociology and economics, what is the difference? It is a multifactorial analysis where there is a study of social organization. Here you are considering only one factor, that is relations of economic variables. This encourages questioning and critical thinking. Economics is more about systematic and scientific thinking. Sociology is less universal as there is little consensus. The scope of theory building is much higher and it is more precise. Now talk about the sociologist. यहाँ पे काम खत्म नहीं हुआ है. आपको सिर्फ सोशियोलॉजी और इकोनॉमिक्स के बीच में डिफरेंस नहीं देखना है. आपको देखना है सोशियोलॉजिस्ट ने उसको कैसे अंडरस्टैंड किया. But as subjects go individually, extreme positions have been adopted. Marxists give precedence to economics over sociology, and Durkheim rejects the classical economic theory. Now, how they are coming together again? The subject matter is sometimes overlapping, and the subjects are being merged in new ways. बिल्कुल contemporary time पे आ जाओ. For example, development of feminist economics, gender budgeting, and so on. For example, large investment in the advertisement industry is directly linked to the need to reshape the lifestyle and consumption patterns. Now, advertisement industry is something which is related to economics, and your lifestyle and consumption patterns are something which are related to sociology. So, both of these things come together to highlight how economics and sociology are related to one another. Then, a new branch of sociology, economic sociology, has emerged to deal with the social aspects of economic life. For example, my work on women entrepreneurs, my PhD on women entrepreneurs, is trying to link or understand how entrepreneurship is linked to the social aspects. Similarly, there are many studies which are done in this context. For example, how your demand and supply is related to your social cultural aspects. In the present times, in the contemporary times, you need to understand that nothing is isolated. आप कोई भी आंसर लिख रहे होगे in terms of sociology, anthropology, sociology, political science, the concluding part will always be talking about how in the contemporary times they both are coming together. Because in the contemporary times, we are talking about interdisciplinary studies. We are not talking about isolated studies. You have also seen the Nobel laureates. They are being awarded for trying to interrelate and interdefine these phenomena. So interdisciplinary study is more prominent. That's why in the concluding paragraph of any subject, sociology and any other sciences, you have to talk about the contemporary topics, contemporary things, and how they are working in an interdisciplinary manner. Therefore, economic calculations can never leave social calculations, and sociology itself learns a lot from economics. Both subjects offer opportunities to learn with their distinctive terminologies and theoretical perspectives, yet an overlapping subject matter. So terminology different है, उसमें कोई doubt नहीं है. Theoretical perspectives भी different है, उसमें कोई doubt नहीं है. But subject matter आजकल interdisciplinary है, right? Then, okay. Next question is on sociology based statements, subject-based statements. Sociology without history is rootless, and history without sociology is fruitless. Now, you clearly understand that there is a relationship that you need to establish between sociology and history. But given our frameworks, अगर किसी ने अपने notes बनाए होंगे और अगर वो definition से start करता होगा, वो इस question में भी definition से start कर देगा. That is wrong. Now, here the demand of question is that you understand the statement. And you start by explaining the statement. First of all, if you know the thinker, very good. If you don't know, it is okay. You don't have to be worried about it. Try to understand the question and write the answer. So this statement is by John Seeley. Now, the statement talks about a relationship. So the first paragraph itself should talk about or highlight this relationship. The relationship between history and sociology is symbiotic, as the present stands on the effigies of the past. जो आज का आपका present है, वो past के basis पे, past के structure पे dependent है. इसीलिए, और often ये वाला question भी आता है, statement based question with regard to history and sociology, जो कि G.E. Howard की statement है, History is past sociology and sociology is present history. Many of you who have seen the previous year questions must have come across this statement. Right? Then you will define in the next paragraph history, how things actually happen, the concrete details, and sociology seeks to establish the causal relationships, capture abstract details, categorize and generalize them. Therefore, Radcliffe Brown says that your history is idiographic, where it is describing, and sociology is nomothetic. That is also another statement that can be asked, that is by Radcliffe Brown, and how he has made a distinction between the two subjects. Sociology, now the relationship has to be established. Kaise? Sociology depends upon history. Kaise? In order to study past events, study of history of cultures, institutions is important. आपको अगर कोई भी इवेंट समझना है, वर्ल्ड वॉर 2, गांधी जी's मूवमेंट, ये पास्ट इवेंट्स हैं, पर when you have to learn about them, when you have to understand them, आप वो पूरा बैकग्राउंड देते हो. गांधी जी क्यों आए, वर्ल्ड वॉर 1 का रीज़न क्या था, वर्ल्ड वॉर 2 का रीज़न क्या था, उसका फ्रेमवर्क क्या था, क्या कल्चर उस टाइम चल रहा था, इंस्टीट्यूशंस क्या थे. यू स्टडी द एंटायर कंटेक्स्ट ऑफ इट, राइट. Then, sociology is concerned with the historical development of human society. Where did sociology emerge? What was it trying to study? It wanted to create a better world. It wanted to solve the problems of the human world. So, sociology is concerned with the historical development of human society. For example, when we study family, we see the historical developments. कैसे joint family से nuclear family में conversion हो रहा है, और अब nuclear family से newer forms of family are. For example, homosexual families, single-parent families, all these are new forms. So you are studying the evolution of it, evolution of a particular institution. And finally, sociology involves interpretation of facts, right? Concluding, history depends upon sociology because sociology provides the social background to the events. Now studied from a sociological point of view, that is social background. Your Indian nationalism book by A.R. Desai, Social Background of Indian Nationalism. It is again a book which looks at from the entire all perspective, the social background. Therefore, it becomes very meaningful in the social context. Otherwise, randomly अगर मैं आज की डेट में आपको बोल दूँ कि आप हिस्ट्री के इवेंट्स पढ़ लो, आपको समझ नहीं आएंगे, आपको याद भी नहीं होंगे. But when you understand the social context, आप एक स्टोरी अटैच कर देते हो, आपको हिस्ट्री में सब कुछ याद हो जाता है. आज की डेट में अगर मैं आपको बोलूँ चलो ये हिस्ट्री की स्पेक्ट्रम पढ़ लो, आपको लर्न नहीं होगी. बट जहाँ पे आप स्टोरी डेवलप करना शुरू कर दोगे तो आपको इजीली याद हो जाएगा. दैट इज हाउ आई ऑल्सो यूज्ड टू स्टडी व्हेन आई यूज्ड टू स्टडी विद माय फ्रेंड, एंड he used to actually develop these theories and I used to immediately learn it. So that is how you built your answer. That is how you built your understanding. You have to develop a story. We had a senior also who used to just tell history or any other thing in a story format. And today he's an officer. Everything, every subject he learned on the basis of story, developing the story, building a theory. So then it becomes very easy. Otherwise, stand alone आपको बोल दो अच्छा 1857 में ये हुआ, 1858 में ये हुआ, 1859 में ये हुआ, आपको कभी याद नहीं होगा. बट जैसे आप एक उसको स्टोरी में वीव कर लोगे, you will immediately learn it. वो आपके दिमाग में register हो जाएगा. So, what does sociology do? By providing the social context, it makes history more meaningful. Right? Today, history is far more sociological, and social history looks at the social patterns, gender relations, customs, other than the acts of the rulers of wars, monarchy, which is the subject matter of conventional sociology. That's what I told you. If you just see the single standalone things, कुछ भी याद नहीं होगा. Sociology provides that meaningfulness to it. Right? So this is how you're going to write a statement-based question. Now let us come to the point of next framework, that is Emile Durkheim's study of society. Now again, I'm not here to tell you the theory itself. You very well know it is the monumental work of Emile Durkheim, and he has put the positivist methodology in it. Given his understanding or given his framework, he tried to understand the social factors for society. Neglecting the biological, psychological, any other factors, he stated that the social factors are the reasons for suicide. And he considered suicide rate as a social fact and not suicide itself. suicide rate as a social fact because suicide as a phenomenon exists in every society. But as and when its intensity or the percentage increases, that time it becomes problematic. So हर society में suicide का prevalence है, but अगर ये बढ़ जाता है तो ये problematic हो जाता है. Durkheims study of suicide, you all know, he considered two forces. One is the integration forces and the other one is the regulation forces, and on the basis of that he gave the 4 forms of suicide: altruistic, fatalistic, anomic, and egoistic. Now his theory clearly states that the rate of suicide is inversely proportional to the degree of solidarity. And then he told that within Protestants, suicide rate will be more than Catholics. Within unmarried, suicide rate will be more than married. Amongst men, suicidal tendencies and suicide rate will be more than women. And during peace time, suicide will be more than war time. रिलेशन क्या है? अनमैरिड लोगों में सॉलिडारिटी कम है, सोशल इंटीग्रेशन कम है, मैरिड में ज़्यादा होता है, इसलिए अनमैरिड में ज़्यादा सुसाइड होंगे. पीस टाइम पे इंसान शांत है, ज़्यादा सॉलिडारिटी की ज़रूरत नहीं है, तो सुसाइड ज़्यादा होंगे. बट वॉर टाइम पे, क्राइसिस के टाइम पे, आपके कभी कभार जो लोग बिल्कुल करीबी भी नहीं होते वो साथ में आ जाते हैं, है ना, दुश्मन के अगेंस्ट, द थ्योरी ऑफ अदरनेस. तो वहाँ पे सुसाइड रेट कम होंगे, वॉर लाइक सिचुएशन में सुसाइड रेट कम होंगे. दैट इज हाउ यू अंडरस्टैंड his theory. It is completely inversely proportional to the degree of solidarity. Now, if you have to write an answer in terms of checking its functionality, checking its relevance, how would you do that? The foremost thing is that you need to study the NCRB data. आपको evaluate करना है ना, आपको चेक करना है कि whether actually में married लोगों में ज़्यादा suicide होता है या unmarried. And according to NCRB data, married people have around 69% of suicide rate than unmarried people. Unmarried people में suicide rate is 21%. And married में it is 69%. And it is further less amongst the widowed and separate. अब according to Durkheim's theory, if we consider Durkheim's theory, it should be that married people should commit less suicide and unmarried should commit more suicide. But it is a reversal. This is how you are going to evaluate Durkheim's theory. For example, according to Durkheim, family problems family creates solidarity. Somebody within a family will commit less suicide. But family problems contribute to 27.6% of suicide. The reason when you see the causes of suicide, family problems are 27.6%. Now, just to clarify, the latest data has been out. This is the data that I'm talking about 2005 to 2015. Since I had that data with me, so I'm referring to that data. But in case you want, there must not be much change in it. But in case you want, you can just update this data or use this data also. There's no problem. The only thing is you have to substantiate. You have to tell the examiner that Durkheim ने जो theory बोली है, वो थोड़ी सी tricky है, faulty है, Indian context में. जहाँ family solidarity create करती है, according to Durkheim, and there would be less suicide within the family people, family problems are a major contributor for or reason for suicide, 27.6%. Right? Similarly, marriage-related problems, 4%. Drugs, 2%. Unemployment, 2%. All these are reasons, and then you evaluate whether it is according to Durkheim's theory or not. Then there was another Lancet study. which highlighted the gender aspects of suicide. Within this study, it said that more women commit suicide than men. Again, contradictory to Durkheim's theory. Because Durkheim says suicide will be more among men than women because women are more closely associated with the family. They have higher responsibilities. They are more integrated in the family. But Lancet study argues that no, it is more among women than men, and especially among married women. But again, it does not completely mean that Durkheim's theory is faulty or is not at all relevant, is not at all functional. Durkheim's theory is very much functional. For example, if you see the NCRB data, the NCRB data highlighted that suicide is more amongst the private sector people than the government sector. Private sector, there is less security, less integration, less regulation. Government sector, there is more security, more integration, more regulation. So in this aspect, the argument that Durkheim has given, that wherever there will be more solidarity, there will be more integration, regulation, suicide rate would be less. Here it supports the argument. Private sector में ज़्यादा होता है, government sector में कम होता है, right? Similarly, 19% self-employed में होता है, 17% daily wage earners में होता है, 9% amongst farmers में होता है. All these arguments then supports the argument given by Durkheim that integration and regulation play a role in determining the suicide rate, right? So that is how you're going to evaluate the functionality of any theory. अगर हम कार्ल मार्क्स की भी बात करते हैं, you use Oxfam report, right? You use other thinkers report, Thomas Piketty को use करते हो, आप किसी को भी use करते हो, just to substantiate, to check the relevance. Now here I'm not discussing the merits and demerits of the theory, the advantages or the disadvantages of the theory, limitations of the theory. But then apart from this, you can also learn that. But whenever there's a question on functionality, relevance, applicability, it is a request. Do not talk about the advantages or disadvantages. यहाँ पे clearly the question is that whether his theory is applicable in the current context or not. यहाँ पे आप उसको अगर criticize कर रहे हो, you will not get marks. यहाँ पे उसके advantages बता रहे हो, you will not get marks. In the concluding line, concluding paragraph, you can, add a line about the relevance of his theory. You can add a line about how his theory continues to be important. But जहाँ पे भी आपको functionality, relevance या applicability की बात आ रही है, वहाँ पे पहले आप check करोगे. कैसे? अब यहाँ पे आप current affairs से link करके उसको evaluate करोगे, right? So I hope this is clear. How are you going to write up an answer about the applicability or the relevance of the theory, right? Let's come to the last framework. Again, a GS-based question, but how you will write in terms of sociology. First of all, the question is on juvenile delinquency. Juvenile delinquency, you will start with the definition. It is some form of antisocial behavior involving personal and social disorganization. So you will explain something about juvenile delinquency in the first paragraph itself. It is a form of conduct that goes against the norms and laws of society that tends to affect people adversely. Some think that delinquency is any act, course of conduct or situation which might be brought before the court and adjudicated. Therefore, delinquency involves a pattern of behavior which deviates from the normal and is forbidden by the laws and sanctions of society. So therefore, we need to understand that it is both a social concept and a legal concept. Right? Now, when you have to evaluate the reasons, how are you going to evaluate the reasons for juvenile delinquency? Now you have to again go back, social structures, institutions. Derive the reasons from there. First, broken homes, families, where children do not get love, warmth, affection, and security. You remember when, I don't know how many of you have listened to the lectures that I have taken on family, but child is considered as a scapegoat, right? You overburden the child with obedient behavior, R.D. Liang. Whenever a child is suffering because of parents' problem, why child is used as a scapegoat? Whenever there is a problem between a husband and a wife, सारा गुस्सा जाके आप बच्चे पे निकाल देते हो. Stabilization of adult personalities, right? So, broken homes is one of the key reasons for the rise in juvenile delinquent cases. Then, bad housing and lack of space for recreation in homes and neighborhood. A child needs to develop physically and mentally, and for that you need a space. Child needs to get involved in recreational activities. One of the major impacts of COVID-19 has been every child is stuck to the screen. You only play games on phones or laptops. But whenever the child used to go out, they used to have certain recreational activity. And very important thing, what Durkheim says, he used to integrate with the other aspects of society. They used to talk to people. They used to know how you can interact with the other people. And if you know, in sociology, interaction is the key. Again, the focus point or the focal point of sociology is interaction. You remember this question has also come in your mains examination. But अब क्या होता है? बच्चे के पास recreational activities है नहीं, सब कुछ phone पे है. They are not able to go out. They are not able to integrate. They are not able to interact. They are becoming isolated beings. And very frustrated, very irritated. आप जरा सा उनको कुछ बोल दो, आज की डेट में वो नहीं सुन सकते. Because उनको आदत हो गई है अपने एक फ्रेमवर्क में रहने की, अपने एक शेल में रहने की. So integration, interaction is completely missing because of COVID-19. It is a very important impact of COVID-19, which many of us are not understanding. But it is. Then poverty and neglect by parents. Both the parents are busy in getting the income for the family. They are not able to devote time to the children. They are not able to devote time to the children's studies or any other recreational activities. That also creates delinquent behavior. Fourth, child working in vocations and places which are congenial to delinquency. For example, children are involved in matchbox making industry, carpet weaving industry. In these industries, there are exploitative conditions. So that is what child learns. And then he further develops a tendency to exploit someone else. This is not a joke. This is a very serious reason. The kind of occupation you are in, the kind of things you learn in your office, in your workspace, you implement that or you use that in your personal life also and in your other aspects of life. So it is very important that where a person or an individual is working. Then, undesirable companion in school, workplace and neighborhood. If you talk about social processes, cooperation, competition and conflict. आपको कैसे companion मिल रहे हैं, उस तरीके से आप अपने आप को, अपने social processes को develop कर सकते हो. Now you can see how I am relating every point to sociology, to social terms, to social institutions, processes. That is what you need to understand when you write a sociology answer versus a GS-based answer. And finally, undesirable influence of cinema, literature, and other mass media. In the present times, we are very much influenced by the fourth pillar of democracy, that is media. And in the present times, social media. A very, very magnificent impact of social media on child. Not just child, I would say, on every individual. So, if there is an influence or something which is shown on media, you try to imitate it. You try to copy it. So, whenever something wrong is shown, you try to imbibe it and you perform or act in a similar manner. So, that is also has an impact. Here, then write a concluding paragraph. You can talk about the delinquents. I did not take out. I had the material on child delinquency. juvenile delinquency. There are, because cases also related to it. Now, if I have to find out, it will take a little more time, which I don't want to waste. So, but you need to have certain fact or a figure. Anything you can write about child delinquency, you can write it as a concluding paragraph. But again, in sociology, you will try to focus on social aspects of juvenile delinquency. And if it is coming in your GS paper 1 or GS paper 2, you will talk about the different if it is GS paper 2, you'll talk about the acts or the legal case. If it is GS paper 1, again, you will focus on the social factors. And if it is sociology, again, on the social factors, and conclude in a similar manner. GS May, you can use any fact to conclude, any figure, any study, any theory to substantiate, right? So yes, these were the frameworks that I wanted to discuss with you and certain basic principles. Next part 4 would come out with another frameworks, a set of frameworks and directive words. I will try to frame this class soon, and we will have this next part added to the series. I hope this was useful and you'll be able to write better answers and develop your framework for previous year questions. It is very important to practice previous year questions. They are going to be your GPS. They are going to be your guiding force. So please understand this. Practice previous year questions and learn the syllabus, right? These are your way to go or write or achieve success in your UPSC mains exams. Not just for your sociology, but practice previous year questions for your GS also, right? Thank you so much for joining in, and I hope it was useful. I'll see you with another part 4 of the series. Thank you so much.